Hi guys, I'm Nate from Good Man Racing. This is the 4Runner that we're going to race the Baja 1000 in. And let me give you a quick update on our race prep for STORR next weekend, STORR. That is an off-road racing organization in El Paso. We're going to go to that race next Saturday. We're racing in the sportsman's class, and we're now in a furious prep stage for the remainder of the stuff that we are working on. And today was a big haul day. Colin Hornock from UC Motorsports, Ultra 4 guy, he came over and did a lot today in helping me get the rear end of the truck back up and going. And right now you're looking at it in its disassembled state. The axles and brakes are out. The shock absorbers, you can see that they're not torqued down yet. And the links are back in place. And you can see little tiny yellow marks everywhere. That is a thread marker. You want to make sure that your bolts are not spinning freely or getting loose while you're off-roading. So that is a quick visual way to see if your bolts are still secure. Same with your nuts. So the real kicker though was not the suspension bolts, but you can see those are tightened up now. It's these. You see that little tiny grid hash pattern right there? Yeah, these are nordlock washers. These are washers that are designed to keep everything real tight and secure during heavy loads, heavy vibrations. So this is the modern replacement for safety ties. This is a cool piece of kit. However, it doesn't work when you have washers between it and this surface. So Toyota's captured washers, we had to grind those off and cut them. That right there is a Heim, big deal. Heims are Heims. But on this side over here, you can still see the Nordlock washer, but it's hidden underneath a flanged nut. That is completely fine. And this area has no Nordlock washers. Because the bolt is so long, we have to use washers to space it out and make sure there's no, or make sure that that nut right there gets good thread engagement. You, as a general rule of thumb, you want to have a bolt that's long enough, or with a smooth shank on the inside of it, to clear all of your mating surfaces with no threads inside. That way you have your threads on the end and they don't experience a shear load through the threads, just the shank. The differential was the biggest thing. Colin helped me out so much today by ripping out this rear axle, and we replaced all of the studs on that bolt pattern, and we put Nordlock washers on every one of those nuts as well, and then torqued them up. But you can see that they're very close, as in the actual bolt pattern, or the actual length of the bolts is just flush with the nuts. Ideally that would have 5 threads worth of external not being used by the nut. When we go to the Baja 1000 later, and when we have to redo everything, we will make those longer bolts at that time. That's not required for this race. You can see the same kind of setup again up here for the upper control arms. And those upper bolts are tight. These lower bolts are all loose because you cannot tighten bushinged connections like these ones here until you're at OEM ride height. Same with the panhard bar. This thing up here, we're gonna tighten that. We're gonna mount that when the car's back on the ground. You can see brake fluid because this right here is the brake line. That's just free dangling. My goal is to get the whole rear axle assembled tonight and get the vehicle rolling on it again. But because I used RTV as the sealing for the pumpkin, like this is the pumpkin right here, the differential, and then this is the axle housing, I used RTV there. So instead of having the wax seal like the OEM has, This one is gonna have to wait for 24 to 48 hours before I can put any type of fluid inside it. That gives you a quick overview of how the rear suspension is set up nowadays. I think there are much better ways to set up a rear suspension, but for what I had access to at the time, it was the most cost-effective way to make it work. Oh, and if you're curious what that thing is, that's the fuel cell. That's the fuel tank. Long term, I'm going to have to make a skid plate that mounts underneath there. Woo! Just got brake fluid on my arm. Yeah, stuff's icky. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you for taking the time, and I will see you out in the garage. No, I just flipped my goodbye. I will see you out in the desert, if not my garage. Laters.